Whoa, YouTube, where have you guys been? Haven't you guys been gone for like a year? No? What? Have I been gone for like a year? Oh. Alright, you got me. To be honest, yeah, I have been gone for about a year since my last video. Reason being is, as you can tell, I've been more focused on my career actually, so I've been kind of away from the game. I haven't been paying much attention to it, so any video that I would have put out would have really just been an insult to your guys' intelligence. So I haven't done anything recently, but these past few months I've been kind of getting back into it and having conversations and reading stuff, and I came across a really good article by a well-known Yu-Gi-Oh personality, and I don't really feel it's getting the recognition that it really deserves. So I just thought that since my skills or my competency about gameplay and stuff like that probably isn't at its peak, that I could do some tell my thoughts and how I think about this article, what I agree with, what I don't agree with, and get back into doing videos that way. So everyone get out your notebooks because we're going back to Duel School.
I am the stone that the builder refused. I am the visual, the inspiration that made ladies sing the blues. I'm the spark that makes your idea bright, the same spark that lights the dark so that you can know your left from your right. I am the ballad in your box, the bullet in the gun, the inner glow that lets you know to call your brother son. The story that just begun, the promise of what's to come, and I'ma remain a soldier till the war is won.
So like I said, I've been away from the game for a very long time. If I try to go into the ins and outs of Yu-Gi-Oh, I just seem unintelligent. So I'm actually going to cover an article that I read not too long ago that I felt isn't really getting the press or the recognition that it really deserves.
Okay, so the name of the article is Fixing Our Broken Language, and it's written by Jason Grabher-Meyer. I hope I didn't butcher that too much. Jason Grabher-Meyer, he's a very well-known player, article writer, whatnot about Yu-Gi-Oh! And the main points that he went over is metagame, tier 1, advantage, the terms game loss, match loss, and disqualification, and annoying words that just don't exist. These are certain things that he found in his conversations about Yu-Gi-Oh! Have been sort of lacking. People maybe saying the terms correctly, or rather incorrectly, than what they really should be, and kind of giving off the wrong notion, the wrong vibe, as far as the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community is in general. So there are certain things I agree with him on, there are certain things that I don't agree with him on. So let's just take it by the numbers and go one by one. First, metagame.
His thoughts on the metagame is actually a subject that I agree with him on. In particular, quote, in addition, there isn't one big metagame, and metagames are constrained by temporal and geographical restraints. They exist at particular times in particular places. This actually says leaps and bounds, because a lot of people would say, like, well, the metagame is X, the metagame is Black Wings, and they believe that no matter where you go, you know, they could be maybe in Iowa somewhere, and they're going to nationals, and they just say, you know, the metagame is this, and it's got to be that everywhere. They feel it's got to be that everywhere, when in actuality, maybe Burn is really good in that area. I mean, the metagame really does shift based on where you are, the players that play there, and the time in general. So this is definitely a subject that I agree 100% on. And it's something that I think we really do need to fix as far as our conversations go.
The next subject that Jason tackles is the tier system, what we like to call certain decks are tier 1, tier 2, 1.5, things of that sort. So let's jump into the issue of the tier system.
I've always thought that giving a tier level to strategies and decks might give a negative connotation to decks, leading players who might necessarily run something that's tier 2 or lower at a big level event and possibly dominate to not run it simply because it's deemed tier 2 or lower. And it seems that Jason actually agrees with me on this, because he wrote this, quote, "The tier 2 statement is different. It just slaps a negative label on a deck that could be a winner but hasn't won yet." And I've seen this more than a couple times, where someone would have gone into a big level event with a particular deck, but everyone around them told them no, they didn't necessarily use the words tier 2, but they said this deck isn't as great, it's a tier lower, or whatever the case may be. And they end up playing what's quote-unquote tier 1 and just doing mediocre. So I definitely agree with him on this, that possibly tier 1 and tier 2, maybe we should stay away from those words. I don't really think it's as detrimental as what he's pointing out, but I do think that the language does definitely have an impact on the choices that people might make.
And lastly, words that don't exist, that a lot of the players use, that I guess Jason doesn't really feel is appropriate or correct to be used. So let's go over some of those words and my feelings on them.
Here's where Jason and I kind of butt heads. He speaks about certain words that it seems like he's just nitpicking because he doesn't like hearing other people say them. So for example, instead of saying something is banned, he rather people use the more official term of forbidden, or instead of TCG exclusive, use world premiere. And it just, like I said, it feels a lot like nitpicking. And if the society kind of deems something a nickname, then it kind of gets embedded in the fabric, and it's kind of hard to get rid of. For example, back when the effect of, if this monster's attack is higher than the opponent's monster's defense position defense, it exceeds their defense, then do the difference of their life points, which is now called piercing. For the longest time, my friends and I would call that Fairy Meteor Crush, because that was the first card that had that effect. So back when Air Knight was really big, people would say, "Oh, hey, Air Knight, what does that do?" And I would say, if it does damage, I draw a card and has Fairy Meteor Crush. That's how we'd explain it, and we built a culture on explaining it that way. A small culture, but a culture nonetheless. In any case, back when Jason was writing on metagame.com, he would deem that piercing long before it became an official term. He would say it does piercing damage. He would write his articles saying piercing, and he would do his tournament reports saying piercing. And it just caught on, and eventually it became an official term. So I don't think it's something that hurts or helps. Whether you want to use banned or forbidden, I really don't see what harm that could do. So sorry, Jason, but I'm going to have to disagree with you on this.
Lastly, and this isn't something that he covered in the article, but a friend of mine actually was the first comment on his the article that he put up on TCG Player, I believe, and he goes over a lot, and whether it's one word or two words, and it's just funny that Jason, who he seems very nitpicky and very I don't want to say anal, but almost to that point about being correct, being absolutely correct on things. And the fact that he kind of brushes off the fact that he incorrectly spells a word a lot and says it's two words instead of one word, I think is really funny. And the second thing is broken, the issue about the word broken, how we use broken and the definition of broken. So let's go into broken.
Okay, this one isn't actually a big deal at all. It's just his definition that I disagree with. He wrote, "Broken is another difficult term, because like tier, it really has no solid meaning. In an industry sense, it's generally viewed as meaning a card or deck everyone has to play or has to tech heavily against to survive. But that definition isn't the public definition, and honestly isn't standardized." I don't think it's as complicated as he's making it out to be. I think broken, quite simply, it means it needs to be fixed. It doesn't work the way it was intended, or doesn't fit the environment the way it was intended. So for example, a card like Raigeki was broken. It was meant to be mass removal, and it was, but in a broken sense. So they, in a sense, fixed it by introducing Lightning Vortex and getting rid of Raigeki. And the same could be said for a bad card. I mean, something like Dispel, which was a very poor card. It didn't do what it was intended, so they created Mystical Space Typhoon to fix it. So that's kind of my thoughts on the word broken.
So, those are my thoughts on the article. It was a very good read. I highly recommend it to everyone. There'll be a link or a annotation here that you can get to the article. Go over it with some of your teammates possibly, and maybe, post your thoughts or discuss your thoughts about how you feel about all of these subjects that Jason covered. Thanks a lot for watching. My name is Fitzroy, and you guys just got schooled. Is that what I normally say at the end? I honestly don't remember. This is Duel School with Fitzroy. I'm Fitzroy. You guys got schooled. Something along those lines.